Consider the moment a woman finally realizes something has changed, radically. Imagine the silence of a mirror that no longer reflects the same admiring glances, nor the frequent invitations, nor the sense of control that once seemed eternal. What happens when a woman perceives, with silent pain, that she has lost what society most valued in her? Her attraction capital, her sexual market value. This is not a common question. Nor is it a simple answer. But today, we will explore this enigma through a rare and profound lens. Guided by the bold ideas of Esther Vilar, author of the controversial classic The Manipulated Man. Prepare to delve into an analysis that challenges the pillars of common thought and dissects what happens in the intimate depths of the female mind when power based on youth and beauty begins to crumble. And the most impressive part, what happens next can surprise even the most attentive observers of the dynamics between the sexes. Welcome to the Black Pill Femme channel, where we offer reflections that few have the courage to make. Go ahead and subscribe, like, comment, and share this video with someone who needs to wake up. What will be said here can completely change the way you understand human relationships and give you a rare glimpse into the hidden side of the red pill. Many men are familiar with the idea of the wall, that invisible yet most relentless moment when women lose their natural advantage in the games of seduction. But few know what really goes on inside the female mind when this happens. How does she react? What strategies does she adopt? And most importantly, does she acknowledge this loss or just pretend that everything is the same? Esther Vilar offers us a cruel, but necessary, lens. In The Manipulated Man, she points out how a woman, from a very young age, learns that her beauty is a tool of power. But what no one teaches her is what to do when that tool breaks. And that's where the silent despair sets in, disguised in narratives of late empowerment, emotional freedom, and other constructs that aim to hide the obvious. She is no longer chosen as she was before. At this exact point, a sophisticated and, at the same time, desperate behavior begins. The simulation of emotional independence. Many start verbalizing that they don't need anyone, that men are a setback in life. But behind these speeches lies a void that grows with each birthday, with each frustrating date, each time her presence no longer provokes the automatic impact it once did. And here begins the darkest transformation, but also the most revealing. If you're already reflecting, tell me in the comments. Have you seen this happen to a woman close to you? Or to yourself, if you are a woman? What did you feel when you realized it? Prepare yourself. Next, we will explore the 3 silent phases that most women enter after losing this market value. And the third is the most powerful and dangerous of all. The first phase is conscious denial. She knows something has changed, but she refuses to admit it. She still dresses like before. She still posts photos like before. She still behaves as if admiring glances are guaranteed. Only now, the glances don't come anymore. Or they come with pity or disinterest. And this hurts her deeply. But she pretends not to notice. At this moment, many lean on the social discourse of unconditional self-esteem. Phrases like, beauty comes from within, or, every woman is beautiful in her own way, begin to be repeated almost like mantras. But deep down, they feel the collapse of an identity built for years, based on external validation. Esther Vilar, in Chapter 6, pages 91 to 96 of The Manipulated Man, describes this phenomenon with cruel precision, by showing how the Western woman was trained to extract value from men, without ever truly developing genuine emotional autonomy. The second phase is forced reframing. After noticing that old methods no longer work, she tries to build a new narrative for her life. She starts talking about career, self-sufficiency, self-love. She joins collective movements where other women are living the same invisible grief. But together they build comforting discourses that mask reality. There is no longer a dispute for high-value male attention. There is a union against the men themselves. This phase is full of contradictions. She rejects men, but she misses them. She says she is happily single, but she observes with silent envy the younger ones receiving what she once received. Proposals, free attention. And this is where author Suzanne Venker's points come in The War on Men. Chapter 3, pages 44 to 49. The false emotional independence promoted as evolution, but which in practice hides frustration and loss. And then comes the final phase. Subtle emotional manipulation. She discovers that if she can no longer conquer with her body, she can try to conquer with guilt. Criticisms of men arise. They don't know how to love. They only care about looks. They're afraid of strong women. All of this serves to divert the focus from the harshest fact. She is no longer desired. Not like before. But the question remains. What happens when even emotional manipulation no longer works? If you've made it this far, tell me in the comments. Have you witnessed this transition in a woman? How did she react? If you're enjoying the content, subscribe to the Black Pill Femme channel. Leave a like, share, and comment. The next part will reveal the most brutal turning point in this process. That moment when some women make irreversible decisions. The third and most somber and definitive phase is silent revolt. This is when the woman understands that no strategy works anymore. Seduction no longer produces the same effects. Beauty, once celebrated, is now compared to the youth of others. The narratives of emotional empowerment no longer bring comfort, only an echo. And that is when many choose one of two most extreme paths. They either isolate themselves in resentment, or they try to rebuild value on other bases, often destroying everything around them in the process. Here enters the most sensitive point of the entire analysis: the projection of pain onto others. When a woman realizes that she has lost her social influence over men, especially high-value ones, she doesn't just grieve. In many cases, she blames. She starts to point to the system, to aesthetic pressure, to structural misogyny. All of this serves to avoid facing the raw truth. The capital she invested in all her life has expired. In Chapter 10, pages 122 to 129 of The Manipulated Man, Esther Villar argues that the modern woman is trained not to love, but to negotiate. Youth and beauty are the currencies, and once they lose their value, a crisis arises. But unlike men who can transfer value to other areas, like status, achievements, authority, women were rarely trained for this adaptation. When she loses the throne of beauty, she also loses her sense of identity. This revolt manifests in a subtle yet devastating way. She begins to publicly depreciate men, not out of moral strength, but out of hidden envy. She devalues the masculine as a way of covering up her own devaluation. It's at this point that many men encounter women who are extremely critical, resentful, self-referential. And they don't understand that this isn't empowerment. It's pain disguised as strength. Authors like Rollo Tomassi, in The Rational Male, Chapter 8, pages 113 to 118, warn about what they call female late redemption, an often unconscious attempt to impose self-worth in a world where female worth has always been externally validated. This is not about misogyny. It's about understanding that those who were raised to win with beauty are never prepared for life when beauty is gone. And this is where the most impactful phenomenon of all emerges: forced rebirth. Some women, a rare few, wake up from this nightmare and begin to rebuild their identity far from the mirror. They abandon the game of seduction, not by conscious choice, but out of necessity. And at that moment, many discover something they never knew how to handle: the truth about themselves, unadorned. But is this reconstruction real? Or is it just another fantasy to avoid confronting the definitive loss? If you've watched this far, write in the comments. Do you think this reconstruction is authentic, or just a new social mask? In the next segment, we will reveal the most profound and revealing point: the exact moment when a woman realizes that the world no longer revolves around her, and how this completely redefines her relationship with men, with time, and with herself. There is an instant, almost always silent, often denied even to herself, when a woman understands, with the weight of an unpostponable truth, that the world no longer revolves around her. It's no longer her words that command attention, no longer her presence that provokes a contest. She has slowly become invisible, and for someone who lived for years being the center, this is more devastating than any explicit rejection. This moment can happen in a supermarket line, upon noticing that glances now pass by her as if she were just anyone, or on social media, where her posts no longer receive the same engagement, or on dating apps, where messages are no longer instant, and suitors are no longer of the same quality. It's a pain that is not spoken of, an anguish buried under cliches like, "I'm focusing on myself," or, "I'm living my best life." But behind it is the confession that will never be said: I am no longer desired. I am not desired as I was before. This realization completely redefines how this woman views time, relationships, and even herself. Time, once seen as an ally, is now a silent enemy. Each birthday becomes a reminder that the market she once dominated now rejects her. Each new line on her face is an emotional scar. Each lack of an invitation is a small grief. Esther Villar, still in Chapter 11 of The Manipulated Man, pages 139 to 146, treats this collapse as the end of the illusion of control. The woman, accustomed to manipulating with charm and beauty, now has to face a world that demands other forms of value. And for many, this comes too late. And the impact is not just internal. It affects her relationships with men, with female friends, and even with her children. A harsh criticism begins to emerge. It is still not necessary for the woman to be known by any woman who is still at her peak. Those who are living what she once lived are subtly attacked. And men, especially the selective ones, are accused of being superficial, insensitive, and toxic. It's the moral inversion that Suzanne Venker calls the psychology of camouflage despair, described in Chapter 5 of The War on Men, pages 66 to 71. But there is something even stronger than the pain of this loss. The anger of not having been warned. Yes, many women, upon reaching this point, turn their eyes not just to men, but to society as a whole. Why did no one prepare them for this? Why were they not taught to cultivate inner value? To develop wisdom, humor, character, patience, faith? Why was their entire identity built on something that time would destroy? And here comes the most powerful and transformative point. What does an Irina Muller note? This term seems to be a specific reference or name, so I've kept it as is. A generic translation could be woman or she, but preserving the original intent is likely better for the context to when she realizes she has lost her market value. It depends on who she is beyond the mirror. If she was only taught to conquer, she will fall apart. She will try to manipulate, blame, deny. But if she can look at herself with truth, with brutal honesty, there is a chance, even if small, of authentic rebirth. Not based on likes, nor on male validation, but on a value that doesn't change. It is measured in youth, wisdom. Most do not reach this point. Few manage to rebuild themselves without hatred, without resentment. But those who do become rare. Not for their body, but for their consciousness. And that's why this video is so important. Because it's not just about them. It's about us. About what we value. About what we seek. About what we teach. About what we let die when we choose appearance as our guide. If you've watched this far, tell me in the comments. What is your view on this truth that many avoid? And don't forget, subscribe to the Black Pill Femme channel. Leave your like. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message, and if you can, make a donation to help this work continue, as the channel is not monetized. And continue your journey of consciousness with the recommended videos on the final screen. In one of them, you will discover how the loss of market value also affects male behavior. And in the other, we reveal the most hidden secrets of the game of female seduction. According to the authors no one wants to quote. See you there.